Well, hey there. It is time for another alignment break. It's been a while since we've done one. And in this segment, I would like to focus on a little skill that has been referred to as pivoting, an alignment skill that is, meaning what you can do when you're stuck in a moment and that moment is marked by kind of the suckier feelings or aspects or thoughts or emotions. Maybe you're grumpy, maybe you're in a mood, maybe you were just stuck on, maybe you had a thought or you had an experience that just kind of got you. And as you're trying to move about your day, you notice that you're still kind of stuck in it. You're just kind of in a bad mood. It's in those moments where it's really useful to pause and kind of trace back to the thought that caused the feeling, because it's our thoughts that cause how we feel. Yes, it can be our feelings that also exacerbate and cause more of those thoughts, but it's originating within your thought or your given perspective. So when you can identify, okay, what was I just thinking about that caused me to feel this like grumpy, icky, crabby ass feeling that I'm having right now, then it gives you the opportunity to shed some light on it, to bring some consciousness to it, which can then break that energy up a little bit and give you the opportunity to move in a different direction around it or change your thought about it, in other words. So, for example, if you stop and notice that you're grumpy, and then you trace it back and you think, okay, a minute ago, I just opened that email. That email was disappointing. I didn't like the tone that the person used. They were really quite rude. And then even though you walked or you moved on to the next thing, that feeling stayed with you. But when you pause and identify, oh, right, it's the email, you're giving yourself that opportunity, that moment to take a breath and say, okay, I'm feeling bad here. What's true about this statement? What do I know? You can kind of shed some consciousness on it. And then if it's something that you need to dive more deeply into and process at a deeper level to move that energy, like through journaling, talking it out with somebody, meditating, screaming into a pillow, whatever you got to do, great, you can do that. But more often than not, we're actually able to pivot and move in that new direction a lot more quickly if it's something that doesn't require us to dive in more deeply. And this happens, I would say, more often than the latter description I just gave. So the key is to know that you can do it, right? The key is to recognize when it's easy to pivot and then pivot, go up, in other words. So I wrote a little bit about this in my book, Awake and Aligned, and I thought rather than trying to articulate this as well as I did in the book, I'm just going to read you the practical application that I gave in it and that I've used myself and that I've given to every single client that I've worked with over the years. Because our brains like to put these heady concepts into functional, practical application, right? So this is what you can do to practice pivoting. This is one form of it. There are tons of them, but I'm going to give you just one today to practice. So it says, anytime you notice yourself feeling an emotion that doesn't feel good, if you pause long enough, you can usually trace it back to a thought that caused the feeling. If the thought doesn't make you feel good, you can bet that it is not representative of your highest truth about that given thing. So in other words, if the thought you have about it doesn't feel good, you're not viewing it through the eyes of source. You're not viewing it through the eyes of your higher self. You're not viewing it from that higher vantage point of alignment. It is most likely based in fear or old data, which is coming from your ego. Instead of feeling worse about identifying your ego as the culprit, quietly thank your ego for being the way shower of what doesn't match who you really are. It is simply doing its job. This is from the chapter called My Ego Made Me Do It, by the way, where I talk about how the ego is not a bad thing, nothing to be overcome, just something to learn to work with. Then take the thought that doesn't feel good and see what you can appreciate about it. As thoughts can sometimes be messy, I like to use the following structure. Okay, here it is. This is your pivot point. Even though I feel blank, name the feeling, I appreciate blank. So even though I feel disrespected by this email and the way the person wrote it, I appreciate that I have the opportunity to decide how I want to feel next. I appreciate that it's showing me what is and isn't okay with me. I appreciate that It's allowing me to stand in my power and speak my truth. You fill in the blank. Oh, and I even gave another example here. Maybe it's a better one. For example, even though I am angry at myself for not being prepared and I am tempted to berate myself for it, I appreciate that I usually am prepared, and this feeling reminds me of how important that is to me. Okay, very, very simple. But you see how it sheds light on, where that feeling is stemming from and the dysfunctional thought that you had that caused the feeling, which then allows you to change the thought and then change the feeling, and you can go up from there. In other words, you can start focusing on things that feel better and better and better and better, and reach that point of alignment again. And I'll just finish this up. It's just one more short paragraph. By acknowledging and embracing the negative feeling you are having, you are creating a sense of relief within yourself that allows you to move into appreciation. By noticing that there is something to appreciate even within this unpleasant feeling you are experiencing, even more relief is created. Alignment is a game of relief sometimes. What thought can I think? What thing can I focus on? What can I do to cause a little bit more relief, which releases that resistance, allowing me to climb up a little bit higher on that vibrational emotional ladder? Oh, I'm losing my voice today. Great thing to happen when you're recording a video. Let's see here. The energy of appreciation is a great neutralizer and gently assists us into higher thoughts and vibrations. And naming the negative thoughts and emotions helps you to embrace the role your ego is playing. Used together in this way, they both allow you to move up the emotional vibrational scale much more quickly and easily. So again, this is one way to pivot. And once you pivot, that is, shift your focus from the thing that's making you feel like crap onto something that makes you feel better, provides a little bit more relief, then you continue in that direction. Try your best not to go back into the direction that was weighing you down and making you feel like crap a moment ago. And again, pivoting is appropriate whenever you're able to do it. If you're not able to pivot, in other words, if you keep finding yourself going back to that thing and ruminating and beating it to death, then it's likely that there's something more for you to do there, that you might have to dive into that emotion, spend a little bit more time there. Like I said, journal, talk it out with people, cry, bring it to your therapist or coach, meditate on it, go for a walk and contemplate it, whatever works for you. But that's just your indication that there's something more to be uncovered, felt, honored within that experience. And if it isn't, then it's likely you'll be able to be like, oh, okay, done. Moving on to better and brighter things. Okay, so that's a technique that you can try out yourself, that you can begin implementing right here, right now. Do a little self-inventory. Is there anything that's making you feel kind of funky? Try to trace it back to that thought that caused it, that experience, that whatever. And then go through that little structure of, even though I feel blank, I appreciate that blank. And then continue on that appreciation train and work your way up. So I hope that helps. Drop a little note in the comments or wherever you're seeing this, on YouTube, on Facebook, in an email. Reply to me in the email and let me know your thoughts on it or your experience of it when you've used it, or what other things you use to pivot. All of the alignment work is based on your ability to manage your thoughts, your emotions, your focus, your attention, and to bring you either to notice when you're in a state of allowing, receiving, alignment, and when you're in a state of resistance, which looks like all the stuff that you don't like to feel, right? And learning how to balance the two and work with both, rather than expecting yourself to be in that sweet spot of alignment all the time. Because again, guys, remember, that is not the goal. The goal is not to be there 100% of the time. The goal is to learn how to get into that higher state of alignment more often, stay there more often, more frequently. And when you inevitably fall out, because you're human and you're supposed to, and we live in the world of the relative and contrast and all that, know how to get back in a little bit more easily, more quickly, more gracefully. Okay. And that just increases the quality of your life. It helps you stay focused on those things you do want to consciously create and bring into fruition. It's just all around a wonderful and important skill to have, right? In fact, these are the types of things that we're going to go even deeper on in the 8-week group coaching program that I'm starting on September 12th. It's the Awake and Aligned deep dive, right? Awake and Aligned deep dive, where we're taking all these concepts in the book, all these concepts that I've worked with private individual clients over the years and smaller groups, and we're diving into it at this most pivotal point in time where life is only ramping up, right? We've got all sorts of stuff happening across the globe, across the planet, that's impacting us as a whole and definitely impacting us in personal life. And you can either be really shaken by it and be at the effect of it, where it's just constantly reacting to what's happening around you and perpetuating that feeling of being unsafe, uncertain, scared, doubtful, fearful. You know, we've all been there over these last couple of years. Or you can take your experience into your own hands and start consciously creating it into something that is more supportive of who you really are and what you want to experience in life. We can't really control what's happening out there. That's not an individually consciously created thing. That's a co-created thing on a collective level, but you can always create on the individual level your experience of those events that are touching each and every one of us, including the impact you want to have on them, changing this world that we live in, raising your own vibration, so that we can raise the vibration of the planet, of the collective. And a group coaching program is a great way to do that. It allows us to address those very subtle nuances to the individual and human experience, where it's like, okay, I read the book, I know this stuff. Oh, but wait, I'm having this experience that's really sucky, and I don't, wait, what do I know about this? How do I navigate it? If you're in a program, a really safe, sacred container of space with like-minded individuals who are on the same path as you, then you're not only learning how to integrate this stuff more deeply and use it more consciously and consistently, but then you get that feeling of like, okay, we're in this together. You're going to be able to see what you can't see on your own all the time. So if that speaks to you, then I really encourage you to consider joining the program. It's not too late. I'll drop a link with all the info in either the description on the YouTube channel or the Facebook post or the email that I'm sending out. I'll make it really easy for you, but I invite you to join us. It's going to be a very powerful thing that will serve you not only for the rest of 2021, but stepping into whatever 2022 has in store for us and really the rest of your life. These skills, just like that teeny tiny little one I just gave you, it helps individuals create a life of alignment with who you really are. It helps you access the best of what you're wanting in this human experience, of what your soul came here for. So if you happen to like my style of doing it, that's certainly not the only teacher of this stuff, but if you jive with my very human approach, consider it and ask me any questions you might have about that. I hope you will. All right, guys, at the very least, try out the technique today. Let me know how it lands with you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next alignment break. All right, take care.